What up, Wizards? We're live for spoilers for the set tonight. It's Mtg Foundations. I always want to say Duskmorn. Spoilers happen fast nowadays. But yeah, we got a bunch of previews today. Lots and lots of reprints to go over. And a fair number of new cards, as usual. So lots of hype today. As you can see, we're trying to welcome you to the previews. We're being as cordial as possible. That's because we're live tonight. We're live. Welcome, everyone on YouTube. You could have been here live. Twitch.tv/SBMTGDev. Let's look at cards. The first thing we're going to look at tonight is reprints. These are the mad ones. These are the reprints that are kind of like, okay, so that's, I know you. Starting with Bear Cub. Would have preferred Grizzly Bears. This is cute. People like cute. We just had Bloomborough. People adore cute things. Guy sure is cute. We also got Fire Elemental over here. Just a 5-mana 5/4. That's all it does. I would have preferred the Pretty Lady version of it, but instead we get this new art for Fire Elemental. Sure. Skyraker Giant is 4 mana for a 4/3 reach. That's all the card does. But it's not new. So, New Horizons, ironically, is also not new. 3 mana for an aura that enchants a land. When it enters, a guy you control gets a +1/+1 counter. And then now the land taps for 2 mana of any color. So Green-White Enchantress decks? No, probably not. It's not actually very good, turns out. Druid of the Cowl is also in this set. 2 mana for a 1/3 elf that taps for green. Sucker. You want to pay double what Alana Elves cost? Be my guest. I don't know. Maybe you just play both of them in your Elves deck. Burog Befuddler is coming back. It actually hasn't been out of standard for too long. Just 2 mana for a 2/1 Rogue Wizard with Flash. When it enters, a creature an opponent controls gets -1/-0 until end of turn. It's a whole card. Put it in your tempo deck? Nah, it's probably better stuff. Biogenic Upgrade. It's a big crab hammerhead shark with tentacles over there. It's kind of cool. 6 mana, 4 and 2 green for a sorcery. Distribute 3 +1/+1 counters among 1, 2, or 3 target creatures. And then double the number of +1/+1 counters on each of them creatures. Cool effect. Costs way too much. That costed so much, guys. Next is Carnelian Orb of Dragonkind. Didn't know this was a reprint myself. Put it into Scryfall. Turns out it is. 3 mana, 2 and a red for an artifact. Tap it for a red mana. And if you spend that on a dragon spell, that dragon gains haste till end of turn. Hey, we're doing some dragon stuff in this set. I don't know. It's neat. 3 mana rock that, unlike Orb of Dragonkind, the first one, can actually cast whatever you want to cast. That's probably okay. Mystic Archaeologist is 2 mana for a 2/1 Human Wizard. Pay 5 mana to draw 2 cards. This actually showed up in sideboards when it was first introduced. I don't necessarily expect it to do that anymore, but I don't know. We got Agatha's Soul Cauldron in standard. Maybe that's... Got to look at your activated abilities. Probably terrible, though. Probably not very good. Mild-Mannered Librarian is here, though. We got the single green mana for this 1/1 human. You can pay 4 mana to have it become a werewolf and put 2 +1/+1 counters on it. You also get to draw a card, but you can only activate this ability the one time. So this was only ever in, like, Jumpstart. I don't think it was ever standard legal. But it's also not great. It's not super good. It's a Fleeting Distraction is the last, I think, of these like meh reprints today. And it's kind of cuspy, you know, it's kind of all right. This is a single blue mana for an instant. A creature gets -1/-0 till end of turn, and you get to draw a card. So 1 mana to draw a card. Cool. Sometimes you'll even target your own guy. You know, if all you need to do is draw a card, this helps you do it at the lowest, not imaginable rate, but, you know, if you're being fair, it's the lowest imaginable rate. You're not going to cast Gitaxian Probe and pay nothing to draw your card. You got to pay something, you know. But yeah, altogether halfway decent, but probably not really gonna see any play. But let's move on to reprints from the starter collection. These are reprints that were in the starter collection, so I'm not going to waste too much time on them, but now we know they're available in draft. We already knew they were standard legal for the next 5 years. Now we know we can draft them. Bite down in here. It literally does what it says it is. It's a bite effect. You just bite. One of your guys bites something at instant speed. It's pretty good. Essence Scatter in here. That's in standard. Okay. Heroic Reinforcements. Again, all of these were in the starter collection. I called it a starter kit. I also called it a starter collection kit, and there were people getting on to me in the comments like, it's called a starter collection. A kit is 2 pre-made decks. You put, okay, sorry. Don't mean to confuse anybody. I sometimes call collections of cards kits. Sorry. But yeah, this is also in that. Meteor Golem is also in that. We knew it was in standard, so no big deal. Wildwood Scourge, this can be played in draft. Pretty cool. Spectral Sailor in the main set. That's also kind of nice. I want to be able to open it in packs on the arena, but I don't know that I have to. I think I just have 4 copies of this from the last time it was in standard. It works that way. A Braid, also in the starter collection. Sick. Tolarian Terror in the starter collection, but also in packs. Cool. 5 years of Tolarian Terror. And now we're in reprints. Good or cool? These are the ones that are either good, as in standard, playable, or beyond, or, as you see here, I think they're cool. So let's look at Dragon Lord Servant. We'll start with the uncommons and such in this batch. Dragon Lord Servant is 2 mana for a 1/3 Goblin Shaman that reduces the cost of dragon spells you cast by 1, and that's cool. 5 years of this in standard. Little sort of mana dork for Dragons decks. I'll always take that, man. It's cool to have access to this guy. Exclusion Mage, that's cool in draft as well, man. 3 mana for a 2/2 human wizard. When it enters, return a creature an opponent controls to its owner's hand. So you get a little Mana War. Why wouldn't you just reprint Mana War? I feel like you should have reprinted Mana War. That would have been cooler. Inspiring Call is 3 mana, 2 and a green for an instant. Draw a card for each creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it, and those creatures gain indestructible until end of turn. Always cool to have access to Inspiring Call, isn't it, man? This can be really, really good, depending on the situation. Like we have Innkeeper's Talent in standard right now. That puts +1/+1 counters on stuff. But we have other ways of doing it. We have creatures that just naturally get +1/+1 counters, Evolving Adaptive, Kyrion Beast Collar, blah, 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 yada, yada. So, shouldn't be too hard to make a decent Inspiring Call deck because this thing can be freaking brutal some of the time. Sweeper that destroys all your guys? Like, actually, I'll draw 4 and you don't sweep them. So I guess I win the game. But Scorching Dragonfire in standard for 5 years. This may have also been in the starter product, but I couldn't remember. Seize the Spoils is back. 3 mana for a sorcery as an additional cost to cast it. Discard a card, draw 2, and also create a treasure token. So usually this effect would cost 2 mana, right? But it costs 3, pays you back a treasure token. Ramp for later turns. I've always really liked this card, and I would have probably rather had, one of the 4 mana like instant speed effects. We've seen a couple of them. Big Score. There was another one that put 2 treasure tokens into play at instant speed. But I'll still take Seize the Spoils. This occasionally sees a little bit of play from time to time, depending on the game plan. Brineborn Cutthroat. This is where we begin some pretty decent uncommons here. This is 2 mana, 1 and a blue for a 2/1 Merfolk Pirate with Flash. Whenever you cast a spell during an opponent's turn, put a +1/+1 counter on this man. So great for tempo decks, man. This was in tempo decks last time it was in standard. It's got a couple of decent creature types, but I don't think they'll matter too much for the decks it's ultimately going to go in. I think this is just, mono blue tempo. Right, we've got a few things for that. Fairy Mastermind, Malcolm as like a 1 or 2 of. We've got a couple of other decent, Flash 2-drops right now. And those are what those decks kind of thrive on. We got the guy that just came out in Dustmourn that like 2 mana Flash, comes down, put a stun counter on a thing. He's good. So, decent little card here for mono blue or blue black or blue white or whatever tempo decks that could easily do some work. This guy gets up to 4 power like pretty quickly. If you weren't there the last time he was in standard, you might not remember. You might have repressed the memory perhaps, but Cutthroat is deceptively good. Very dangerous card. Seriously. Exsanguinate is up next. We lose a background here because this card just came out. I just added it to the folder before I hit go live. This is a 2 black and X for a sorcery. Each opponent loses X life. You gain life equal to the life lost this way. Perennial Commander card here, but I'm going to make my head larger, but don't know how much standard play it ends up seeing. That said, it'll see at least a little play because I'll be playing it on the arena, man. I really, really, really like Exsanguinate. I like any sort of drain life effect, and they gave us what is in some ways the most famous of all drain life effects because of its, lifetime use in Commander. So I want to try it out in standard in kind of a black X control deck as, a part-time win condition. But I'm not sure it's going to be great. But maybe alongside Corrupt in a mono black deck, we can just burn them out. Could happen, but remains to be seen. I wanted a good fireball effect in this format, and this is actually probably the best fireball effect we could hope for that's not named just Fireball. And it might even be better than just Fireball. Really, it might. If you think about it, we haven't had a big go-over-the-top X spell for this much damage in a good long time. We got World Soul's Rage, right? That's in standard. But this is just really streamlined. We've only got a couple of these effects right now, and this is a pretty good one when you get to thinking about it. Apart from that, though, we got Youthful Valkyrie. Gets reprinted, everyone. I think this might be the last of the uncommon reprints I wanted to sort through today. This is 2 mana for a 1/3 angel with flying. Whenever another angel you control enters, put a +1/+1 counter on Valkyrie. Sweet. It is still very expensive. I see you say this uncommon used to be very expensive. Youthful Valkyrie, I think, is still a couple of bucks, man. More than a couple of bucks. Last time I looked, I want to say it was like $6 or $8. And we're going to disrupt things by seeing exactly how much it costs. Yes, $6. $6 from Kaldheim, which is the only time it's really been printed outside of this list printing. So yeah, very expensive, and I'm glad that they're reprinting it because it needed that. If nothing else, it needed to bring down the cost a little bit. So hopefully it'll have that effect, and now we can play Angels in Standard. We have Giada, and we have this in the 2-drop slot, and some really good Angels above curve on that. So I think Angels are kind of back on the menu, dude. This is really, really good. Apart from that, though, moving into the cool reprinted rares. Again, that does not necessarily mean competitive, like Aggressive Mammoth here. Perennial sort of all-timer when it comes to like core settiness, you know. 6 mana, 3 and 3 green for an 8/8 elephant with trample. Other dudes you control also have trample. So creatures you control have trample. Period. On this guy. A little much. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not sure that he's that good anywhere in Standard, but used to be a pretty celebrated, not only commander card, but again, like starter cube, simplified cube, intro cube, just cubable guy. But yeah, again, he's got a very intro pack rare feel to him, but very Timmy-like too. I think a lot of new players might actually really like this. 6 for an 8/8, what a rate. What a great rate. Other dudes have trample. That seems good. And like maybe some sort of combo where you pull this out of your graveyard with another huge dude. You get through with those guys plus other dudes and all of them have trample. Like maybe. But that's... I don't think the card's going to see play because it's a 6 mana 8/8. I really don't. Cheat it out and swing, buddy. Maybe Smuggler Surprise this and another huge thing that doesn't already have trample into play at the same time. Get in. Brass's Bounty up next. Speaking of expensive cards, 7 mana, 6 and a red for a sorcery. For each land you control, you get a treasure token. Kind of excited to have access to this in Standard again. I really am, dude. It didn't do anything the first time it was in Standard, but this too is a little expensive, I believe. I think that you have to pay some money for a Brass's Bounty. I guess let's find out. Brass's Bounty. Hate what you have to type to. Okay, it's still just like $1. All right, they've reprinted it a little bit more than I thought too, but I feel like there was a point where Brass's Bounty was like $5 too, but not sure if I'm remembering that correctly. Either way, definitely solid little magic card here that's good outside of Commander too. I feel like if Big Red or like some like serious ramp deck needs to ramp into like an 11 drop or something, like Brass's Bounty could get the job done. So I like this card. Glad to have it back. Big ramp is always welcome. Flame Wake Phoenix over here. This, actually kind of halfway decent. I think it's from Fate Reforged. 3 mana, 1 and 2 red for a 2/2 Phoenix with flying and haste, and attacks each combat of Fable. At the beginning of combat on your turn, if you control a creature with power 4 or greater, you may pay red. If you do, return this card from your graveyard to the battlefield. And then it will have to attack. if you did that. But still, a 3 mana 2/2 flying haste that's fairly easy to bring back from your graveyard is okay, but I'm not sure that it has quite the punch, the pizzazz that it needs to have to see Standard play nowadays. But it's still something to kind of keep your eyes on. I think Phoenix is kind of all right. But yeah, 1 red is good. 1 red is good, but having a large creature out is harder than it seems, especially in the kind of decks that want to play this, right? These aggro decks probably won't have a ton of 4-power guys. But we just saw a 2 mana 4-power guy. We just saw a 2 mana 4-power guy like yesterday. So, it could be. Galta Primal Hunger is also in the set. Did you know Galta's in the set? 12 mana, sort of, for a 12/12 legendary elder dinosaur that costs X less to cast, X being the total power of creatures you control, and it has trample. Look at the teeny tiny little arms. I mean, I know it's a T-Rex, but like, geez. Those are some prehensile arms. They're good for nothing. Anyway, this will often cost like, 4 to 5 mana. Something like that to cast. If you're doing things correctly. If you go 1 drop, 2 drop, 3 drop, you can sometimes get Galta down if they're all big enough, So, I mean, what would that take? let's say we go Evolving Adaptive or something on 1. This is probably not how you want to do this, but like Evolving Adaptive on 1, play a Kyrion Beast Caller on 2, so that Evolving Adaptive gets a counter, so that's 4 total power right there. On turn 3, played literally any 3-power creature, Beast Caller gets a counter, and Evolving Adaptive gets a counter. That's -9, so it costs 3 to cast this. Cool. All right, so that's just one line. There's a ton of them, it turns out. Keep in mind, too, that we have 2 mana creatures in this environment, like the Dimir guy. There's a Dimir guy. I forget his name, but he's like a legendary dude that isn't a creature until something happens. But one way or the other, he's a 2 mana 8/8. Or he is a creature. He just can't attack or block. But yeah, he's like a 2 mana 8/8 or something like that. And that's a good way to get the mana cost on this guy down pretty easily. So there's tricks. There's definitely tricks with Galta, but it wasn't super powerful last time it was in Standard either, so we'll see. But again, we have Smuggler's Surprise. We have lots of ways of reanimating dudes, so like it could be. It could be, you know. Not how Prehensile is used, but I get you. I mean, but you're right. You're correct. What is Prehensile is something that can grab onto something, isn't it? That's like a monkey's tail or whatever. I'm looking for like useless, but still there for some evolutionary reason, even though like it used to serve an evolutionary purpose, but now it doesn't, right? But it's still extant on the body of whatever being. What is that word? Anyway, let's look at Terror of Mount Velis up next. This is 7 mana, 5 and 2 red for a 5/5 dragon with flying and double strike. When this creature enters, creatures you control gain double strike. Vestigial. Oh my god, thank you, Vestigial. It's Vestigial arms. Thank you. Prehensile. The arms aren't grabbing onto anything. 7 mana, 5 and 2 red for a 5/5 dragon with flying and double strike. When it enters, creatures you control gain double strike until end of turn. So that is good with push-pull. We just keep talking about push-pull. It's the 4th time I've mentioned it this previous season. But yeah, pulling Terror of Mount Velis and some other huge creature out of your graveyard to attack that turn, I think would probably be pretty good. You know, enter the battlefield, double strike is great, especially when you push pull. You have other creatures on the table to attack with and give double strike. So I would at least keep this in mind for reanimation purposes. I would. But Swiftblade Vindicators up next for you Boros Shard Mages Rescue weirdos out there. This is a red and a white for a 1/1 human soldier with double strike, vigilance, and trample. And since this is a core set, we get reminder text on each and every one of those things. I think it's kind of fun. But yeah, a 2 mana 1/1 double strike is fencing ace. It's kind of the going rate. So when you throw vigilance and especially trample on that bad boy, things start going crazy. Double strike and trample is just a good ability set to slap together on a card. So the moment this wears an ethereal armor, it wins the game. You know what I mean? So do keep it in mind for like Boros Auras if that's what you want to do. I think that's probably where this card goes. But if you just wanted to do Boros pump spells with, again, Shard Mage's Rescue and maybe another, white protection spell of some kind at 1 mana, then this would be a pretty good candidate for that as well. Because the moment it gets a monstrous rage, it gets in for 8. What's that new card? Oh, crap, I should remember the name of this card, but it's the 1 red mana thing that gives a creature +3/+0, and if it dies, they get a 2/2 back. It was just in Duskmourn. People are playing it now. This gets that. Then again, it gets through for 8. So, trample, double strike. Let's go. It's absolutely sick. Turn inside out. That's the name of the card. Thank you. Never act. You're cool. But, yeah, this is kind of an exciting reprint to get. It really is. Again, didn't do anything too much the first time it was in Standard, but we got a whole new set of things for it to mess around with now, so could make all the difference, Dwynen Guiltleaf Dane is up next. 4 mana, 2 and 2 green for a 3/4 legendary elf warrior with reach. Other elf creatures you control get +1/+1. Whenever Dwynen attacks, you gain 1 life for each attacking elf you control. Let's count them up, baby. We have a 2 mana elf anthem effect from Dominaria, I think. We have Elvish Archdruid in this set. We also have Imperious Perfect in the starter collection, which means it's available in Standard. Now we have Dwynen Guiltleaf Dane. So that is 4 that I count. There may even be more. That's 4 anthem effects for elves. You could also play Patchwork Banner if you wanted to. I don't think you need to. That is a ton of anthems right there. We may get even more. So we can probably play elves in standard. I think the ball can get big enough as it rolls down the hill collecting elves and slamming into whatever happens to be in its way. So, yeah, I think this might be the critical mass we needed. This also gains life and stuff when we attack. So, cool. Just altogether, man, this may be a little bit too expensive. It might get cut from its own deck, but I don't know that. Maybe it comes in the sideboard against like heavy aggro to gain you some life or something. But still has to wait a turn to attack, so I'm not too sure about it. This usually comes down on turn 3, though, right? Like most of the time. It comes down on turn 3. But still, man, it's exciting to get all these anthems. Like, elves might be like a real, actual deck in standard right now. Reprint Craterhoof, you cowards. Ugh. I think I'd rather have Lightning Bolt. You know? Genesis Wave is up next. 3 green and X for a sorcery. Reveal the top X cards of your library. Put any number of permanent cards with mana value X or less from among those onto the battlefield. Then put all cards revealed this way that weren't put onto the battlefield into your graveyard. Note that it does say permanent cards, not non-land permanent cards. So that's a way to ramp. This will probably see play, you know? Like, I think that maybe the Doppelgang decks that get big mana right now and cast the Doppelgang for X equals 3 or something might actually want this effect, especially if they end up playing more permanents, right? They want it to put all the lands into play, but if they play like Rabrask's Forge or some other enchantment or artifact or something, then like maybe they want Genesis Wave. If they play Overlord of the Boiler Bilges, right, then maybe they want, you know, X equals 10 or X equals 12, and you end up hitting 2 Boiler Bilges and winning the game that way. So I think that there is a world where this card is very playable, again, given all the like big mana decks that we have in standard. And just another stop on this train, think of it in like Golgari, where I don't think it ends up seeing play. So don't take this bit too seriously, but Golgari does play an awful lot of permanents, doesn't it? You know, obviously it plays the lands, but it plays Glissas and Cheldrids and Aquazats and Deep Cavern Bat and Mosswood Dread Knight and Innkeeper's Talent some of the time. Unholy Annex, it plays Archfiend of the Dross, you know, Liliana on occasion, just tons of permanents in that deck for a card like this to hit, and it can hit, you know, for X equals 3, it can hit Deep Cavern Bat, Glissa, land. And like, okay, like a little bit, that's kind of fun. So, yeah, it's an elf ball card, right? It literally is an elf ball card too, I should mention that, because if you can make, you know, 8 mana with elves or whatever, then, you know, tap your Archdruid or whatever it is, the 3 mana Elf Anthem effect, tap it, make 8 mana just with it, and then cast Genesis Wave for 12, X equals 12, just go crazy. This is, in fact, an elf ball card too, so yeah. A lot of uses for this in standard. There really, really are. 1,000-Year Storm got reprinted as well. This is 6 mana for Storm in standard. 4 a red and a blue for an enchantment. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, copy it for each other instant and sorcery you've cast before it this turn. You may choose new targets for the copies, aka the reminder text on Storm. And we even get a RAL reference in the flavor text here. So they told us we couldn't have Storm in standard for the last 10 years, and now we have 2 Storm cards in standard, but, you know, they're both kind of tough to get to. You know, Ral, you have to get to the ultimate. 1,000-Year Storm, you have to cast a 6 mana enchantment and probably untap with it on the table. But who knows, man? I think that there's probably just like fun stuff to do with this. We just saw that other 6 mana enchantment yesterday that allows you to copy a non-land permanent every single turn. So my big dumb idea is to copy 1,000-Year Storm every turn and then like get ridiculous storm triggers, right? Like 12 storm triggers a turn. From different enchantments. So 1 shock ends the game, even if they're at like 50. You know what I mean? It could happen. Well, I guess it would have to be like a small spell and then a shock. Copy it a bunch of times. But, you know, 1,000-Year Storm has always been like this fun Brewers card that's just slightly out of standard playability. But, you know, as a content creator, you see something like this in standard for 5 years, you're going to have a lot of streaming and brewing opportunities. So I'm happy to have it. This is a lot of people's like favorite card. A lot of people love this card. I can understand why. Next is Krenko Mob Boss. I think I have this labeled as the best or like most impactful reprint of the day. This is 4 mana, 2 and 2 red for a 3/3 legendary Gobbo warrior. You can tap it and create X/1/1 red goblin creature tokens, X being the number of goblins you control. Yes, that's exponentiality. Did I use that word right? That means that if you tap it once, right, you'll get some goblins because you have some goblins. And then the next time you tap it, you'll get way more goblins. theoretically twice as many. And then you'll tap it again and get twice as many as that. Kind of. Again, kind of. Depends on how many goblins you've lost in the interim, in the meantime, the between time. But yeah, this counts the goblins that you made last time. You know what I mean? So you'll end up making so many goblins. The idea here is to untap Krenko over and over in a turn, and that's not like super feasible in standard. Although, again, reminder, we have Agatha's Soul Cauldron in standard. So if all of your guys with +1/+1 counters have this ability, and you have 6 guys out, profit. I just want that to be a fun deck to make, right? But yeah, just in goblins, I don't even know if this is playable. I really don't, because you have to wait a turn to tap it. It costs 4 mana to tap and to cast in the first place. The first tapping of it will just kind of be okay, you know. By the time you can tap it for the second time, you really hope you would have won the game anyway. This is modern day standard Magic the Gathering, so I'm not too convinced, but this is inevitability for a Goblins deck for sure. And it's really good with stuff that we have in the set like Impact Trimmers. It's good with stuff like War Leader's Call, so I want to try that out maybe. You know, Red, White Goblins, War Leader's Call, a little Impact Trimmers action. There's a lot of cool stuff you can do with Krenko, as evidenced by the fact that this is a beloved commander for the last, 15 years, however long it's been available to play. People have loved this card, so it is cool to have it in standard. I worry it's slightly too expensive. However, that said, with a way of giving him haste and enough goblins in play, maybe some shapeshifters and stuff, there's a way to make this happen. There's a way to make it happen, Captain. So we'll see about it, man. Krenko is iconic for a reason, certainly. But let's look at new things. You can't tell that it says that because of my giant head, but see, new things. We're gonna look at new stuff. I wish that I had the Seinfeld transitional new things. Icewind Elemental is the first new thing. It's bad. It's the first new thing because it's kind of bad. 5 mana, 4 and a blue for a 3/4 elemental with flying. When this creature enters, draw a card, then discard a card in it. This is not good. I guess you'll play it in limited sometimes because it's a flyer with a body. ETB trigger? Oh, that's not very good. Rune Sealed Wall is cool art, though. It's 3 mana, 2 and a blue for a 0/6 artifact creature wall with Defender. You can tap it to Surveil for 1. Okay, so, better than the first card, but still probably only draftable. 6 toughness is kind of a lot for 3 mana, and Surveil 1 every turn is okay. It's fine, but still probably not really playable. Goblin Negotiation. Up next here. This is 2 red and X for a sorcery that deals X damage to target creature. You also get a number of 1/1 red goblin creature tokens equal to the amount of excess damage dealt to that creature this way. The word excess, I think, is a big womp womp on this. I'm pretty sure, but maybe it's not. Maybe she isn't. Because if you kill a 2-drop and you want to make 3 goblins, oh my god, that's 7 mana. That's too much. That's probably too much. But again, big mana decks, maybe they want this because I'll kill your 4-power guy and make 3 goblins. That costs me 9 mana, but I have a lot of it. I have so much mana. There's got to be a better way to use your slots than this, though. I just think this is probably priced out. I do, but maybe in limited. I don't know. I'm just not too sure. Removal spell that makes guys, though. A removal spell that makes guys could be good. I'm telling you, that could be all right. But next is Joust Through, a single white mana for an instant that deals 3 damage to an attacking or blocking creature, and you gain a single life. And I think that Elspeth's Smite is just better than this in standard for the time being, because it exiles things. And there's Heartfire Hero, Mosswood Dread Knight, Cacophony Scamp, Unstoppable Slasher. There's so many reasons why you'd want to exile a creature in standard right now. However, if there's kind of a control-ish life gain deck, getting a life on their turn, sneaky. Trigger all your life gain stuff. It's all right. Could be okay, But Strong Box Raider here is 4 mana, 2 and 2 red for a 5/2 Orc Pirate with Raid. When it enters, if you attack this turn, exile the top 2 cards of your library. Choose one of them until the end of your next turn. You may play that card. Drafty. It dies to everything. It kind of sucks, but it is a 5-power, 4 mana creature. It's a fine rate. I don't like that it trades with 2-drops. I really hate that it trades with 2-drops, but they know it's going to trade with 2-drops, so they allow you to get card advantage off of it. This is kind of a 4 mana, 5-power body that draws you 2 cards. And that is probably okay. But next is Dragon Trainer. I wish I had ever in my life seen How to Train Your Dragon, because then I would be able to name these two people, but now I can't. This is 5 mana, 3 and 2 red for a 1/1 human. When it enters, you create a 4/4 red dragon creature token that flies. Can you imagine? Can you imagine a flying dragon? They don't do that. Yes, they do. They all do that. This is blinkable. A blinkable guy. You know, a blinkable man. Lady? I guess it's a blinkable lady. So, sure. But I don't know what I don't think it's standard playable, but blinkable guy. Twin Blade Blessing, though. We're getting to the top of the lower rarity cards from the new stuff today. This is actually, I think, quite good. 3 mana, 1 and 2 white for an aura with flash. This enchants a creature, and that creature has double strike at instant speed. At instant speed, you can play this. Pretty sick, by the way, if your guy is wearing an ethereal armor, or even just a Sheltered by Ghost, like anything that increases its power. By the way, Sheltered Ghost also gives it lifelink, so double strike lifelink is cool. But yeah, just flash on this kind of does really make up for the 3 mana. It might be priced out. It really might be priced out of standard playability. 3 mana is an awful lot, but is it close, man? Is it close? You know, double strike at instant speed is almost always ridiculous. And the fact that it, you know, sticks around, like it does it again next turn, you know, it's great. It triggers all your eerie effects and whatnot, you know, triggers your optimistic scavengers and stuff. Just, I don't know, dude. I think it might be a sort of a flying elbow drop, you know, finishing move, a sharpshooter leg lock for these, you know, Enchantress decks, but it also might be just a touch too expensive. I'm interested in it though. I think this is probably okay. Almost like Embercleave. Yeah, it's almost, it really, let's go back. Almost like an Embercleave. Especially if the guy already has Trample. Trample was really good, though. On Embercleave, Trample was great. But, yeah, if you wanted to look at this like an Embercleave, you kind of could. You really kind of could. This is a fine Magic card. Preposterous Proportions is our first rare of the day. You noticed I introduced it with no fanfare. It's because it's mostly just a kind of a joke. This is 7 mana, 5 and 2 green for a sorcery. Creatures you control get +10/+10 and gain vigilance till end of turn. That is so much mana. They've already done this joke before, by the way. You know, like on what is it, Might of Oaks in like Urza's Legacy. There's a giant squirrel, and Might of Oaks is like your guy gets +7/+7 at instant speed. They didn't have the stones to make this instant speed. I would almost be interested in it if it was. +10/+10 at instant speed would be righteous, but instead they gave us some really great, they give some good art, some pretty funny art, although when you think about it, it's terrifying, you know, but +10/+10 is a lot. Can we all just admit that that's a lot? But sorcery speed is just not good. But the card is exactly what it needs to be. The card is 100% what it needs to be. Yeah, hopefully, if I get bodied at like pre-release by this card, I think I'll be very happy. I think I will. Soulstone Sanctuary here, though, is a land that taps for colorless, comes into play untap. You can pay 4 and have it become a 3/3 creature with vigilance and all creature types, and it is still a land. So it stays a creature. Like it doesn't stop being a creature EOT. So that means that it just like becomes susceptible to removal and sweepers and stuff as soon as you activate it. And that's kind of why it's like down here, right? We got a bunch more rares and stuff to look at today after this. And originally I felt like this was really good, but like the more I think about it, the more I think, okay, you're just going to get stone rained. Like as soon, you know what I mean? I don't know about as soon as you make this a creature, but you know, you're giving them an opportunity for the next couple of turns to draw the Get Lost or something to blow this away. And I just don't know how much I love that. I don't. But I guess if they have Get Lost or Go for the Throat, they can blow it away anyway when you activate it. That said, one of the strengths of a creature land is that it doesn't die to sorcery speed removal and sweepers and such, and this kind of does. But last thing I'll say is that all creature types, so it's kind of a mutavault too, all creature types might be sneaky good on this. And it's just, you know, it's a creature land that's going to be in standard for the next 5 years. It's somewhat playable. I think it's a notable Magic card. So I think, again, this is kind of where we get into starting to get into the good stuff a little bit, but maybe. It could be late game against control, and it could be late game for control. I think it could be a halfway decent late game for control, especially given the vigilance, you know, because it can swing into small guys. If all your opponent has small guys, you don't have to care. Vigilance is kind of good for control in that way, you know. I'll swing into your tokens and block your tokens. So I get to attack, but you don't. Yeah, it's very control. But yeah, I think it's a fine card. Just fine, though. Draycatcher up next. 1 and a blue for a 1/3 human wizard with both vigilance and prowess. Whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, put that many incubation counters on it. Remove 3 incubation counters from this creature. Create a 2/2 blue Drake creature token with flying. So you have to have dealt combat damage 3 times to make a 2/2. That's not good. But it's a 2 mana 1/3 vigilance prowess. Not the worst stats, I guess. That's like Kitsa Otterball Elite stats. Prowess, though. The prowess is where it's at here because you put that many, right? You put that many incubation counters on this guy. So, you know, she gets in for a damage. You can pump her if she's unblocked. And suddenly, maybe she deals 3 damage. And then, boom, you make a Drake. You make a Drake on that turn. So that's kind of neat. I don't like that it's a young girl that makes Drakes. You don't want to have Drake around young girls. Sorry. I know that the Kendrick Drake thing's been over for a while, but it's right there. It's right there. And I'm sorry. But this is potentially kind of okay. This is all right, but I still think there's a lot of hoops you have to jump through. You want a deck with a bunch of like, you know, pump spells, and I'm just not sure you're going to do that outside of like a red-based deck. We see those, right? But is this really going to go in your like slick shot deck? Probably not. You know what I'm saying? So maybe somebody will do something fun with it. Maybe it's cooler than it looks. Maybe it's a lot of value. Maybe you can proliferate and put extra counters on it, but I don't know. It's a lot of work to me. It's a lot of work. And yeah, you can make them EOT. You can make them instant speed. I guess that's something you want to point out. Like you can make them during your opponent's combat step. There's good things about it, but it's a lot of work. So much work. Zimini, or Zimone, as you're supposed to say Zimone, Paradox Sculptor. I called it Zimini for like a year. This lady right here, called her Zimini. And then over a stream where there are people who actually work for Wizards of the Coast, they were talking about cards and they were like, Zimone. And I was like, oh. So Zimone, Paradox Sculptor, is 4 mana, 2 a green and a blue for a 1/4 legendary human wizard. At the beginning of combat on your turn, put a +1/+1 counter on each of up to 2 target creatures you control. You can also pay a green, a blue, and tap Zimone to double the number of each kind of counter on each of up to 2 target creatures and or artifacts that you control. So, you do these 2 cards, right? You do the hatchling thing that makes Drakes. And I'll show you this. Could you double the number of kinds of counters on it? It's not just +1/+1 counters. You see what I'm doing? You can also put extra charge counters on artifacts or really any kind of counters on artifacts, and that could be like really, really tricky. Cool looking commander, but let's be honest, slightly good, right? Because it gives you a double Luminarch Aspirant. It gives you a double Luminarch Aspirant every turn. A double Innkeeper's Talent every turn. And sure, it costs 4 mana, but you can put a counter on it and something else, and it becomes like a 2/5, right? And that's kind of okay. There's multiple effects like doubling season and, again, Innkeeper's Talent and Standard that'll put extra counters on things. You know, there's stuff like, oh my God, what's his name? Botanical Brawler that'll get extra counters when you put counters on stuff with Zimone. So, you know, Ozolith is in Standard. There's a fair number of things that care about +1/+1 counters. So, I don't know, man. I'm kind of intrigued by this. I think it's one of the better versions of Zimone that we've ever seen. So I like it. I think the activated ability is sick too. And for the 3rd time in the video, I have to remind you that Agatha's Soul Cauldron is in Standard. So that activated ability can be spread around and used, multiple times in a turn. And sometimes you just need to use it one time and it's ridiculous. So I think it's good. How do you feel about this one, chat? It dies to cut down. It does. That's the worst thing about the card is that it dies to cut down. You move to combat and the trigger goes off and you try to put a counter on it and it dies to cut down. So I will give you that. But ultimately, I think that this card has the smallest of chances. But yeah, 4 mana is kind of a lot. You know what I mean? But Kiora, the Rising Tide, if you wanted a good blue legend, she's all right. This is 3 mana, 2 and a blue for a 3/2 legendary Merfolk Noble. When she enters, draw 2, discard 2. She also has Threshold. Whenever she attacks, if there are 7 or more cards in your yard, you may create Scion of the Deep, a legendary 8/8 blue octopus creature token. We've seen a few different Threshold cards in this set, and I like the way it kind of synergizes with the Delirium theme in DSK. So keep in mind that those 2 things are kind of parallel to one another. But this feels threshold by 2 when it ETBs. And if you can get to attack with it even once, then it's going to make the 8/8. You know, like I don't think it's very hard to get 7 cards in your yard by turn 4 when she does attack. You know, on turn 1, mill yourself somehow. On turn 2, it is extremely easy to mill yourself. On turn 3, Kiora comes into play and discards 2. And on turn 4, you have all of the mana in the world to mill yourself the last card or 2 you need to mill yourself and get in with Kiora. I do think, though, that having to wait a turn for her to attack, her also being susceptible to cut down the turn she comes into play, a 3-drop that dies to cut down is not usually great. She dies to shock effects and torch the tower. She dies to everything. A 3-mana 3/2 is not amazing, but at least you get some ETB value. And that value could help you with flashing stuff back. It could help you with reanimating stuff. It could help you get Delirium. It could help you get Threshold. So even if she dies, she did something for you. You know? We got, what is it, Steam Core Scholar in Murders at Karlov Manor. That is a 3-mana 2/2 flying. I think it even might have Vigilance. And when it enters the battlefield, you draw 2, you discard 2. It has seen no play. And it's very comparable to this. But, you know, that card doesn't get you an 8/8 if you ever get to attack with it. I think Kiora is deceptively all right, dude. Not sure if it's a sleeper or anything, but good ETB trigger. Blinkable in a lot of ways. I like that. Not the most expensive card in the world, and relatively early in the game can get you a large creature. So I don't think it's bad. I really don't think it's bad. Yeah, fits into the Oculus deck, I guess. That's true. Because you will have Threshold. You'll have Threshold in that deck, like all day. It's not bad. Yeah, Scion of the Deep is the one sleeping here. That's true. That's true. Good call. It could definitely be a sleeper. It could. Next is Quilled Great Worm. This is 6 mana, 4 and 2 green for a 7/7 worm with trample. During your turn, whenever a creature you control deals combat damage, put that many +1/+1 counters on it. You may cast this card from your graveyard by removing 6 counters from among creatures you control in addition to paying its other costs. So you still have to pay the 6 mana for it if you play it out of your yard, but you know, this is something you could use Zimone for, right? Double the number of counters on things and then remove them to get Quilled Great Worm back. A 7/7 trample is pretty serious to be able to get back from your yard, but I will say removing 6 counters is a pretty steep cost. That is a huge cost. So you can remove, you can't remove loyalty counters. It's just creatures you control. So scratch that, reverse it. But it's mostly going to be +1/+1 counters. And again, pretty big cost. Especially if you remove 6 +1/+1 counters to put a 7/7 into play. Congratulations on your 1 power and toughness. You know, this has trample. That might work out. Altogether, I think it's a neat card. And the thing you really want to point out on this is that it says deals combat damage. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage, not to an opponent, to anything. So if it deals combat damage to a creature and survives, it'll get its power and +1/+1 counters. And that's pretty nasty. You know, like in a game of Commander, I could see that being really, really good. If nothing else, this is a strictly better Colossal Dreadmaw. And that is a meme, yes. But Colossal Dreadmaw is a 6 mana 6/6 trample, and it's kind of fun to play it sometimes. This is a 6 mana 7/7 trample that comes back and has a ridiculous line of at least Commander text, if nothing else. But once it's on the table, it'll affect a game of Standard too. So, you know, I kind of like it. I think it's pretty sick, actually. Yeah. Oh, not to a player. Yep. It's not to a player. It's removed from anything. Couldn't you remove impending counters? No, because if you're impending a guy, that guy's not a creature yet. He's just an enchantment. So you can't remove impending counters because the permanents with impending counters aren't creatures. So, but yeah, there's probably ways to do it though. There's probably ways to make this work and like benefit you in some way. But anyway, we'll move on to Blasphemous Edict. 5 mana, 3 and 2 black for a sorcery. You may pay black rather than pay the spell's mana cost if there are 13 or more creatures on the battlefield. Each player sacrifices 13 creatures of their choice. So it's Blasphemous Act. It's Blasphemous Act, but it's an edict effect instead. This is a good black sweeper. This is probably a very good black sweeper. I don't know if I like it more than, what is it, Deadly Dispute, because Deadly Dispute's ability to like rob them of a card for the rest of the game is really, really good. But Edict is nice right now because they can't, indestructible or hexproof their way out of it. And that might end up being really, really important. It could be, but I would say most of the time this is going to cost 5, sure, but it's also going to sweep the whole table. Come on, you know? So unless you have 14 guys, you know, that's another thing you can do with it. If you have like 30 guys out, then like suddenly it is like a little more one-sided, but it's probably not going to happen too often. Just all that said, I think it's a solid black sweeper that's at least commander playable, but depending on the environment and how much, you know, of this or that effect we have, this could be more than playable. And, you know, depending on the deck. If you play creatures in your deck, you've got some tokens or whatever, and you run up against another tokens deck, you might play this for a black mana. You very well may. In Commander, though, this costs a black mana like way more often. Again, just like Blasphemous Act. This costs a single black about as much as Blasphemous Act costs a single red, which is most of the time. So good card. Very good card. Sylvan Scavenging is up next, though. 3 mana, 1 and 2 green for an enchantment. At the beginning of your end step, choose 1. Put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. Or create a 3/3 green raccoon creature token if you control a creature with power 4 or greater. I have just noticed this says end step and not upkeep, which technically makes it far better, right? I just mentioned that yesterday we saw a 2 mana 4 power guy in red, Slumbering Cerberus, I think his name is. And that enables this pretty well on turn 3, right? Because you play Cerberus on turn 2, play this on turn 3. If Cerberus is still around at the end of the turn, you get a 3/3. That's awesome. A thing that makes a 3/3 every turn is great. It really is. Especially in like, you know, Caretaker's Talent decks and stuff. That ain't bad. You know, with an Urbrass Forge in play that's making large enough dudes, I'm pretty sure you can, you know, order the instep triggers in such a way that before your Urbrass Forge token gets sacrificed, this will make a 3/3 for you. Sick. But, you know, in the meantime, it's getting your dudes a little bit larger, your little token nerds or whatever, to get bigger every turn. And I think this is probably worth 3 mana. Again, decent commander card. Pretty decent commander card, but I think this is probably decent for standard too. You know, there's going to be turns where you play a 2-drop into this and then your opponent blows away the 2-drop so you don't get any value off of this turn 3 and you feel like womp womp. That'll be the worst case scenario, and it can definitely happen a good bit of the time. So I'm a little reticent to say it's amazing, but, you know, when you get the ball rolling and start really getting value off of this, then I think you're having a great time. So good little value engine here, good little creature engine, you know, and those are always going to be worth it. So I like the thing. I like the thing kind of a lot. It's also self-sustaining, right? You have a guy with power 4 greater, make yourself a 3/3, put a +1/+1 counter on that guy, and then you forever have the 4/4, even if the other 4/4 dies. You know what I mean? If you just have a 2/2, then eventually it'll be big enough to start making 3/3s. So, you know, altogether, I think this is kind of great. Yeah, probably Commander again. Yeah, maybe slow against mono red. Could be, but doesn't necessarily have to be. It does not necessarily have to be. I think there's a spot for this card in standard if things like slow down, but maybe not even like, you know, if you think about Caretaker's Talent, you know, that same point, you know, probably not great against mono red on turn 3. Neither is Caretaker's Talent. Amazing card. You know, neither is Unholy Annex. Amazing card. Unholy Annex is singularly terrible against mono red on turn 3, and it's the most popular card in the format. So I think you can play a 3 mana enchantment that sets you up. I think you can still do that right now. But next is Soul Weaver. Speaking of 3 mana green cards, 2 and a green for a 4/3 Spirit Spider with reach. Whenever another non-token creature you control dies, you may reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a creature card. Put that card into your hand and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. Okay, so this is better than whenever a non-token creature you control dies, draw a card. In most cases, this is better. Whenever a non-token creature you control dies, replace it. Unbelievable. And it's a spider. It's a new spider, you know. We just got the Swarm Weaver and we have some things in standard that care about spiders. Mostly the Swarm Weaver, but still, you know, a 3 mana 4/3 reach is a decent stat line. It's not a terrible stat line. I'd say it's baseline right now for not being embarrassing. It triggers all these things that want you to have a 4 power guy. So I guess that's a thing to point out. Reach will get in the way of Overlord of the Mistmoors tokens. It gets in the way of Deep Cavern Bats and a bunch of other flyers right now. Fairy Masterminds, blah, blah. So just the Reach stat line is pretty good. But yeah, like picture a Midnight Reaper, you know, whenever a thing dies, draw a card, pay a life. Like sometimes that'll draw you into removal or lands that you need or an important spell that you need. And in those cases, that's better, right? But most of the time when a guy dies, you just want to get back on board, you know, you want to get your board presence up, to you know, get back up with your opponent. And that's what this does. You know, a guy died. Cool. Go get a guy. Oh, a guy died, go get a guy. And on another way, a way you can play this card is to play very few creatures in your deck. You know, like play your 4 Soul Weavers and then 4 of like one other guy. And then 50% of the time, your Soul Weaver is guaranteed to get you that other important creature. I think that's kind of neat. So, really, I think this guy's great. I think this guy's great. Yeah, with a sack outlet. No once a turn either. Yep, if you get wiped, you draw a ton of them. That's sick. You know, it sucks we're in a Sunfall standard, but this isn't standard for 5 years. Hopefully Sunfall won't be. So when sweepers become more fair and we actually lose like 3 guys to a sweeper, draw 3 creatures guaranteed. Disgusting. Like I think this card is very, very good. And again, commander playable in a lot of decks. This is commander playable in like Dina Soul Steeper for sure, and any other sacrifice like green-black deck. This is great. But in standard, I think this is like a really strong Magic card. I really do. Yeah, 1 year left on Sunfall. Clock's counting down. Raise the Past is up next. 4 mana. Speaking of aristocrats, man. 4 mana, 2 and 2 white for a sorcery. Return all creature cards mana value 2 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. All of your Vrons, all of your Elisil Cores, all of your dinky little 2-drops, all of your Bartolome del Prestigios, all of your greedy freebooters, all of your market gnomes, all of your, man, your reinforcements, your resolute reinforcements, to put more guys onto the table, all of your crawling choruses, which you then sacrifice to your Bartolomes and get a 1/1 token. You sacrifice that to the Bartolome and get the triggers off your Elisil Core. Raise the Past honestly feels like it might be like the Aristocrats payoff. You know, Season of Loss was a really good Aristocrats payoff. I had a lot of fun playing that. This, I think, is much, much better. And now your curve can effectively stop at 2, which I think that deck might want anyway. You know, it might want to play Braids at 3. It might want to play Gix at 3, depending on what the rest of the package looks like. But especially, I think you can rebuild that deck now and make it a lot stronger with Raise the Past, because this is traditionally the exact effect that Aristocrats decks want. They want to be able to bring back all their cheap creatures to re-sacrifice or just put their important combo pieces back into place. And they want that ability for reasonably cheap, and this does it for reasonably cheap. So I think this might be great. But it's not just that, you know, this helps out all kinds of decks. All kinds of decks right now. Especially, you know, think about rabbits, for instance. You know, stuff like Beauregard Mentor and Regal Bunnycorn is always 0 power in the yard. So it'll always come back with Raise the Past, but it'll be huge when it comes back. That's something to point out. You know, Imidane's Recruiter won't come back with this, but this could potentially be good in a deck like Imidane's Recruiter, right? So just little stuff, you know. What is the name of the card? Not Abigail, not Annabelle. Not that thing, but the little doll, the Boros doll that swings in and does damage to your opponent equal to the number of like 2 power guys you have. Arabella, I think is her name. Good in that deck in a way. You know, if you want to set something up with Arabella, it's pretty decent. You know, Delny decks, even life gain decks, right? Because life gain decks are going to play for that Hinterland Savior or whatever it's called, the 1-drop 1/1. That's a Soul Warden. People want to play that card. People have a ton of 2-drops they play in that deck, you know, like anything underneath Zoraline in that deck. This can bring back Essence Channeler, Amalia. Those are all good picks too. So, and these are all on color, you know. I haven't even added any colors to whether it's white, black life gain or white, black aristocrats or, you know, white, red Boros, whatever her name is, the doll. You know, these are all, I think, like actual places I want to try the card. Just really excited about this one, dude. Thank you, McChang. I'm also excited about your 6-month prime. You're awesome. But yeah, bro. Yeah, again, Sunfall standard, but we're running down the clock on that card, dude. I really think that, especially if the play is to, you know, sacrifice, raise the past, sacrifice. Like that could be it. That could be all we need. It really could be, dude. I like it. I like it a lot. Celestial Armor is up next. As we round the corner, I think we're in the top like few cards of the day. Celestial Armor is 3 mana, 2 and a white for an artifact. It's an equipment that equips for 4 mana, 3 and a white. But it has flash, and when it enters, you get to attach it to a creature you control. The creature you attach it to gains hexproof and indestructible until end of turn. The equipped creature also gets +2/+0 and has flying. This card is nuts. I'm pretty sure this card's bananas. 3 mana is a lot for a savior guy kind of spell. And I also think that it could rot in your hand when you want to use it. Like there's a push-pull here. Like, okay, I want to get this extra damage in on my opponent, you know? So my guy goes unblocked. now's a good time to play Celestial Armor and get a little bit of extra damage in. But if I do that while armor's on the stack, they might remove my guy. So I have to swing in, hope they try to remove my guy, slink the armor down, plink the armor down on it, fizzle their removal spell, and get the +2/+0 in flying. But I think sometimes you're going to be waiting for that. Sometimes you're going to not spend mana that you kind of want to spend on your turn to count to 20 as quickly as possible, but instead you feel the need to hold up for your opponent's turn or the end of your turn and play Celestial Armor. So I think the card is actually a little bit more awkward than it looks in decks that probably want it, but still, all that considered, pretty strong equipment here, right? Extremely strong equipment. 3 mana for +2/+0 in flying is not the best rate. 3 mana for a protection spell is not the best rate. But you put them together and you think about the fact that there's Valiant in this format. You know, when you target it with this ability, Valiant will get a little bit bigger. Prowess, you know, you played a non-creature spell, so your Prowess guys will go off. Artifacts entering the battlefield might be a big deal. So an artifact into the battlefield, you get a trigger for that, plus you save your guy. Like anytime you get extra value off of this, I think that you're like really, really, you know, making the card amazing. So I think this is good. I do think this is quite good. And again, that's why it's like at the almost end of the video here. Quite good. Really, again, the mana cost is slightly awkward, but I think it's good enough that it sees some play. I really do. Yeah, fair Embercleave. Yeah, like kind of. Banner of Kinship is the actual final card of the day, is it? Okay, well, we'll have to reload Mythic Spoiler, see if we miss anything, but I've got this labeled as like Z99 Banner of Kinship to make sure that it's always at the end of the folder, because I think it's definitely the card I wanted to talk about most today. They basically reprinted Coat of Arms, is what they're trying to remind you of here. Banner of Kinship is 5 mana for an artifact. When it enters, choose a creature type. This artifact enters with a fellowship counter on it for each creature you control of the chosen type. Creatures you control of the chosen type get +1/+1 for each fellowship counter on the artifact. So it won't gain fellowship counters as you play more creatures. It won't do that, but you know, you play it for 5 mana. You have 4 elves in play. Let's just say you have 4 elves. And so creatures you control now for the rest of the game, as long as it's in play, get +4/+4. Seems pretty good, man. I think that it's easy to play this on like turn 3 even. I think that you could get this down on turn 3 with some elves, you know, and then suddenly all your elves get +2/+2 forever. But I think the way you want to play it is like play it on turn 4, play it on turn 5 when you have, you know, 5 elves. Now, +5/+5 is no joke, you know, again, an elf ball card, but good in most creature types decks. I think that this really helps a lot of creature type decks. You know, imagine rats, which creates rats in a lot of different ways, makes a bunch of tokens of rats. Imagine rabbits, you know, rabbits with hop to it, and all their other token making cards like Carrot Cake and stuff. They have 6 rabbits in play. They play Banner, they win the game, you know. So, like if anything, they printed a doozy of a kadoozy of a card even into Commander. But I do think even at 5 mana, this could be somewhat standard playable depending on when it comes down in the game, how many of your own guys you have to tap versus how many lands you tap. You know, it depends on what turn it's going to come down, but I don't think it's going to be too hard to have 3 to 4 creatures in play of the given creature type. And if you do, I think 5 mana for like +4/+4 for the rest of the game is pretty good. I think it's pretty good, dude. So I like it. I like the weird, cheeky idea of maybe a deck that goes mid-range and like copies its Banner of Kinship, because it's not legendary. So if you copy your Banner of Kinship like a couple of times, suddenly your dudes are all huge, even if you only have a couple of guys in play. I don't know. There's like really cool stuff about this, and I think it's going to be one of the chase rares from this set. It might be win more, but it might not. It might not. At the same time. Yeah, less annoying Coat of Arms. Yeah, Coat of Arms you don't have to track or anything like that. And that's kind of nice. Just lock in that +5/+5 right now. Don't have to do the math. Like, okay, I have 12 elves. I think I have 12 elves. They all get +12/+12. None of that. Just lock in an Anthem. I think this card is crazy. Like, maybe it's the Timmy in me or the guy that likes creature types or whatever inside of me. But I see more than a Commander card here, although it is a Commander staple, like forever, for the rest of time. Commander staple. Money. But I think there's a world where this is standard playable. I really do. You know? I think I'd just rather have Overrun. Yeah, maybe. Maybe you make a great point there. Overrun might just be better, but I think there's going to be some decks that after the elf ball gets to the bottom of the hill, really once it's 3/4 of the way down the hill, the bottom of the hill is the end of the game. You knock your opponent out, bowl them over. But when it's 3/4 of the way down the hill, you throw this down and all your elves get +7/+7, you win the game. So it could happen. I just think this is a righteous Magic card, and I'm glad they didn't reprint Coat of Arms, but next best thing is just kind of giving it to us anyway, and they did that. But that is all the cards that I know of. Let's see if we got any more. Let's check Mythic Spoiler first. Go to newest spoilers. Anything? No, nothing over here. And then we go to mtgpreviews.com. See if it takes a second to load, because it usually does. Oh, Exsanguinate is the newest thing. So that is all of the cards from today, man. Blasphemous Edict's art is pretty sweet. It really is. But that is everything from today, man. But I hope it was enough. It was 60 freaking cards and like over an hour of talking about them. So, man, when we do the rate every card in a speedrun video, I think by the time we get there, I'm just gonna be knocked out. And I think it's gonna be next week. I might even do it before Thursday, just to do it. I think next Thursday is gonna be a long way out. We're gonna know the whole set for almost a week by then. I think we know the whole set Friday, so I might get back on Saturday to Monday, something like that, to do the rate every card in the set, and then I can sleep for a while. And then we have to do the top 50, and then I can sleep for a while. But it's never over, is it? It's never over. We get Ether Drift, and then we get Final Fantasy, and then it's a set every 2 months. But anyway, stick with us, because there's even more ridiculous Foundations previews. This set is so cool, man. This might actually overtake Bloomberg for set of the year in my eyes. It really might. I love this set so much. I'll go out on this before I end the YouTube portion of it, and then Twitch people stick around for a second, and I'll kind of wrap up with you guys. But I had a guy yesterday in the comments section. His comments stuck out with me, and I don't even think he was being mean. I don't think he was being mean. I think he was just being genuine. I've never seen anybody get as excited for bulk as you do. And some of these are bulk, but sometimes I really like bulk. I've got 30 years as a Magic player. I don't like Magic cards because they're uber powerful, gonna see all the play, maybe get banned in Standard, the spikiest card you've ever seen. I can't wait to buy 4 copies of this and play it in Standard or Modern or Pioneer or whatever. I only like good cards, whatever. That's not the definition of a good Magic card to me. It's not. A Magic card, and this is going to sound circular because it is a card that makes me think of Magic cards. A card that makes me think of Magic the Gathering. And I could go out and talk about this for 20, 30 minutes, and I just might in a different video, but Magic the Gathering Foundations, nearly every single one of these cards, old and especially new, kind of makes me feel like Magic the Gathering. What Magic the Gathering is, distilled into its essence, what it should be, what it always was to me as a child. It feels like the game that I fell in love with. A lot of these cards do. Even the bulk cards, because I like Magic cards for their design. I like Magic cards for their potential. I like Magic cards for the goofy crap you can pull off with them. I do not just like a Magic card because it is powerful. As a matter of fact, there's a lot of Magic cards I really, really love, have stories with, memories with, nostalgic times with, that I will remember for the rest of my life, that will make my life better, more full, and more special because I have the memories with those cards, and they're not particularly good cards. I do like bulk sometimes, and some of this does look like bulk, but they also have, a lot of these cards, that super simple, boiled down, not too wordy, not too, I have to understand the context of 30 years of Magic history and how Magic cards work and have the comprehensive rule set memorized and burned into my brain to get and appreciate and understand the fun of these cards. I think they have really, threaded the needle in terms of what a core set should be, what an onboarding experience should look like, what Magic the Gathering for a very long time was, is, and can still be. And I know that's a lot of like super high horsey, pretentious, fluff talk, just a bunch of woo to some people, but it actually has meaning to me, man. This set reminds me of Magic the Gathering. And as much as I like goofy Magic sets, as much as I liked OTJ and even Murders at Karlov Manor, I loved Bloomborough, I loved DSK. Dustmourn's a great set. As much as I think all these sets are great and I love high concept and whatever, I want to explore all the different sort of cultural stones we can overturn, and that's why I like a dinosaur set as much as I like a haunted house set. We should explore these kind of weird concepts, but every now and again I like a set that feels like Magic the Gathering, the game from when I was 11 years old, and Foundations kind of hitting those buttons for me. It's kind of doing it for me, guys. I'm letting you know. So I like this set a lot, like a lot. I've got a lot to say about it, and again, maybe I'll get a video out about that, but that's sort of my distilled feelings on it right now. This set just feels like Magic the Gathering to me in a way that a set kind of hasn't in a while. So those are my extended thoughts. I'll probably have even more of them before it's all said and done. But anyway, guys, YouTube fam, good to see you do all the YouTube stuff on your way out. There's a button vaguely shaped like a thumb. If you look at it hard enough, you can see it's kind of thumb shaped. Hit that on the way out. It puts the video in more recommended feeds, and it's more likely to show you more videos from me. But if you want to see more videos from me, sub to the sandwich or the channel. But I'd honestly rather you sub to the sandwich. The Meatball Club is a good value, but if you sub to the sandwich, meatballs. If you sub to the channel, you'll see more of my videos too. Hit the bell for the notifications. Spoiler season is not over. Plus, we got to do the top 50, top 10 sleepers. You know how it is. I can't wait to sleep. Apart from that, you can check out the Patreon, just $1 a month, patreon.com/SBMTG. Link or something in the description. Go over there, throw me $1 a month. It helps out a tremendous amount. And boy, have I been working my butt off this previous season. I recorded 2 hours, 3 hours worth of content like every day this previous season. So if you feel like that's worth $1 a month, throw it my way. I would greatly appreciate it. But anyway, that's all I've got, YouTube folks. I will see you again very, very soon. Make sure to check out the top 10 cards rated thing. Have you done that yet? Top 10 cards. It's like a spoiler video every single day. It's a good time. But anyway, love you, YouTube people. Twitch people, stick around. Yeah, I'm donezo for this one, though. So I'll catch you cats later. I'm Deb from The Place. Thanks for watching, Wizards. Spread love and be kind.